My name's Henry Willis. I'm 72, born and raised in Texas. I spent the last 48 years running a 520-acre cattle ranch just outside of Lubbock. That land was everything to me. It was passed down from my father, who got it from his father before him. I raised my two sons, Evan and Malcolm, right there on that dirt. Back in the day, people respected a man with land. But things changed. The kids grew up, moved to the city, got educated, married city girls, and stopped caring much about cows or hay or fencing in the middle of July heat. I saw it coming. That's why I started planning years ago. 3 months after my 72nd birthday, a group of developers approached me. Big firm, out of Austin. They wanted my land for one of those master plan communities with golf courses, strip malls, and artificial lakes. I told them no at first. Then they came back with a number. $50 million. Cash. I nearly dropped my coffee when I saw it. I asked them straight, you know this land floods, right? Water line's garbage. County ain't even fixed the access road. Their rep smiled and said, we'll take care of all that. You've got location, Mr. Willis. Everything else is manageable. I didn't say yes immediately. I sat on it, thought about what my daddy would have done. Then I remembered something. My sons already wrote off the ranch years ago. Every time I mentioned land, they rolled their eyes. Evan once told me, Dad, it's just old dirt. Sell it. Enjoy the money. So I made my decision, but I didn't tell anyone. When I signed the final documents and transferred the deed, I had a silent moment. I stood outside the house I built with my own hands and stared at that dry field. I expected to feel proud or sad. I felt nothing. 2 days later, Evan called me. Dad, I saw online the ranch sold, he said, voice high. What the hell? You didn't even tell us? I didn't think you'd care. Of course I care. That land was supposed to stay in the family. You mean the land you didn't visit for 2 years? He went quiet. Then Malcolm called. Tell me it's a mistake. Tell me you didn't sell to those clowns building the gas station and condos. I did. Jesus, Dad. How much did they give you? A couple $100,000? I paused. Something like that. He laughed like I was a dumb old man. You got fleeced. God damn it, Dad. I told you not to sign anything without a lawyer. I had a lawyer. Was it that weird guy from the VFW? Nope. Big-time guy from Dallas. He didn't respond. The word spread quick. People in town started saying Henry Willis got taken. Said I sold the land for next to nothing. Some old-timers pitted me. Some laughed. Even my preacher asked if I needed prayer for being misled by fast-talking city men. I let them all believe it. Let them think I'd been swindled. They didn't know I had $50 million in a trust account. Tax-optimized, lawyer-protected, and untouchable until I was good and ready. I wasn't going to use it for travel. Not for new boots or fishing trips. I wanted something else. I wanted to see how my sons would treat me when they thought I had nothing. And I didn't have to wait long to find out. A week after the sale, I rented a 2-bedroom cottage about an hour away from town. Nothing fancy. Quiet road. Big trees. Enough space to stretch my legs and keep out of sight. I paid 3 months rent up front using a small portion of the money. No bank alerts, no paper trail, all cash. Then I made a few calls. I rang Malcolm first. Son, I said, I had a bad fall yesterday. Slipped coming down the porch. Banged up my side pretty bad. He didn't pause. Damn, Dad, that sucks. You should be more careful. That's what I thought you'd say. You need anything? I'll be all right. Well, glad you're okay. He hung up in under 2 minutes. Then I called Evan. Hey, Dad, what's up? I took a fall yesterday. Hurt my ribs and bruised my shoulder. Geez. Did you see a doctor? Not yet. Just resting. Well, if it gets worse, go get checked. I'll tell Courtney to send you some soup or something. That's thoughtful, I said. Of course, no soup ever came, and neither of them showed up. But 2 days later, I heard a knock. It was my niece, Sarah. Sarah is my late brother's daughter. 28 years old, just finished nursing school, living a couple towns over. She brought a grocery bag and a box of muscle relaxers. I made chicken stew, she said. Figured you wouldn't say anything until it got real bad. You always had sense, I smiled. She cleaned up the place a little, helped me patch the busted light over the sink, sat and watched TV with me like family used to. I heard you sold a ranch, she said gently. Word travels. Is it true what folks are saying? That they got you for peanuts? I nodded slowly. Something like that. She gave a sympathetic smile and didn't press. Just said, doesn't matter what they paid. That place was your life. Sarah came by twice more that week. Never asked me for a thing. 2 weeks later, I texted both my sons. Told them I wanted to have a real sit-down talk. Just us three. Evan replied, is it serious? Maybe we could just talk on the phone. I've got work and Courtney's parents are coming over this weekend. Malcolm replied, even faster. Let's not be dramatic, Dad. If it's about money or your will, we can sort it out in a group call. I read the messages 3 times just to be sure I wasn't imagining the tone. So I said nothing else. I stopped texting. Then, 3 weeks later, I was hospitalized. The arthritis that had been creeping up for years finally locked up my knees and hips so bad I couldn't move. Sarah found me on the couch and drove me herself. The doctor kept me for 4 nights. Nothing life-threatening, but painful and something I couldn't hide. The hospital called both boys, left voicemails, explained that their father was being admitted for age-related mobility issues, told them I was stable, but would benefit from a visit. Neither showed. Not a call, not a text. When I got out of the hospital, I told Sarah I needed to leave Texas altogether. This town's about to get noisy, I said. She looked confused. Noisy? The developers are about to go public. They're announcing the master plan and the price tag. The gossip's going to explode. And when folks hear what I actually got for the land, my phone's going to ring off the hook for all the wrong reasons. She nodded, smart to disappear. I packed up within 48 hours. No notice, no forwarding address. I hired a relocation company that handled wealthy out-of-state transfers. They used shell accounts and listed everything under a trust. 2 weeks after the press release dropped, announcing the developer's purchase of the Willis Ranch for $50 million, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Evan called first. Dad, are you okay? We've been worried. We just saw the announcement. Is that real? Did you really get $50 million for the land? I'm fine, I said. Why didn't you say anything, he asked. Why would you let us think you got screwed? Then Malcolm rang the next morning. Dad, Jesus, $50 million? When were you planning on telling us? I wasn't. There was silence on the line, then a fake chuckle. Okay, well, we should talk about everything. Like, sit down one-on-one and go over it. That did it. I snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. But I let the truth out. You want a one-on-one now? Funny. You didn't want a one-on-one when I fell and told you I was hurt. You didn't want a one-on-one when I asked to talk about my health. You didn't want a one-on-one when I was lying in a hospital bed alone. Dad, that's not fair. No. What's not fair is now, suddenly, the money's real and you boys want to play family. Dad, Malcolm said, voice rising, that land was family land. It was ours too. You had no right to cut us out. I laughed. That land was willed to me directly by my father. Your grandpa gave it to me, not you. I ran it. I worked it. You two walked away from it a decade ago. It was mine to sell, and it's mine to decide what to do with. Wow, Evan muttered. You're selfish. I wish you both well, I said, but I don't want to hear from you again. Then I hung up. I turned off my phone for the next 2 days. I didn't want to see the messages or the missed calls. I already knew what they were about. They weren't calling to check on their dad. They were chasing the ghost of the $50 million. About a month after cutting them off, I went to see my new doctor, Dr. Lawson. Good man, late 40s, straight talker. He was helping me manage my arthritis and keeping tabs on my blood pressure. One afternoon, after a checkup, I said, "Doc, I want to ask you for a strange favor." He looked at me over his glasses. "Try me. I want to run a little experiment. A family test." "What kind of test?" "I want to call my sons and tell them I've got 3 months left to live." He paused. "Is that true?" "Not even close," I said. "But I want to see what they do with that news." He leaned back in his chair. "You sure you want to play that game?" "I'm not playing. I just need clarity. I've spent a lifetime handing out second chances. This time, I want to know for sure who I'm dealing with." Dr. Lawson didn't agree right away, but after I explained the situation, how they ignored me when I was sick, how they came running only after money was mentioned, he understood. The next morning, he called both Evan and Malcolm. He left them voicemails saying, "This is Dr. Lawson, your father's physician. I need to speak with you urgently regarding his condition. He's requested that I inform the family directly. Please return my call as soon as possible." By noon, both sons had returned the calls. I stayed in the clinic, out of sight, while the doc handled the conversations. Later, he summarized what they said. Evan asked if you had already signed over assets to anyone. That was his second question, right after asking if you were conscious. I raised an eyebrow. And Malcolm, he said, and I quote, "If he needs full-time care, we'll have to put him in a home or something. No one's got time to sit around all day babysitting." I nodded slowly. "You sure you still want them to visit?" "Yes, but I want you to tell them I'm unconscious. Can't talk, can't walk, can't move. I want to hear what they say when they think I can't hear them." Dr. Lawson gave me a long look. "You're playing with fire, Henry." "No," I said. "I'm finally seeing clearly." 2 days later, they arrived. They brought their wives with them, all four dressed like they were coming straight from church. Sad faces, pressed shirts, soft voices. Like it was all a performance. I was lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to a few machines, pretending to be sedated. Sarah, my niece, sat quietly in the corner, playing along. She was the only one who knew the truth. I heard every word. Malcolm was the first to speak. "So, what happens if he passes without a will? Does it all go to the state, or what?" Courtney whispered, "I hope he had enough sense to leave something behind. We're family, after all." Evan chimed in, "He probably gave it all to that damn nurse. What's her name again?" "Sarah." "She's not even blood," Jessa added, rolling her eyes. "Just a niece. Maybe he gave her a thank you bonus. But there's no way he'd leave her the land or money." "Right," Evan said. "He's old, but not stupid," Malcolm muttered. Then the kicker came. Dr. Lawson walked in and asked, "Have you considered who will care for him full time?" Evan didn't miss a beat. "An assisted home's best. That's what they're built for. Just make sure it's clean and not one of those horror stories." "Yeah," Malcolm added. "We're both slammed with work. We can't do 24-hour care. Besides, he probably wouldn't even know where he is." The doctor nodded and wrote it down. They left that evening, all hugs and stay strong, and promises they never intended to keep. The next morning, they came back, probably check on things, or, more likely, see if the will had surfaced. They walked into my room, expecting to see the same weak, unconscious old man. Instead, I was sitting up, fresh clothes, reading the newspaper with my feet crossed. They froze in the doorway. Evan blinked. "Dad." I looked up slowly. "Well, look who decided to visit." Malcolm stammered. "The doctor said you were unconscious." "Guess the Lord gave me a miracle," I said. "I was just as surprised as you." No one laughed. I folded the paper and sat up straight. "Now I know exactly what you think of me. And now you'll know what I think of you." I reached into the drawer, pulled out 2 envelopes, and handed one to each of them. They looked confused. "Open it," I said. They did. Inside each was a check. $1 million. Evan looked up first. "Wait, this is it." Malcolm snapped. "You sold the land for $50 million, and you're giving us crumbs?" I chuckled. "Crumbs? Boys, I didn't know you a damn thing." You walked away from me. Repeatedly. I gave you what you deserved. And you're lucky to even be getting that. Evan started pacing. You lied to us. You set us up. No. I gave you a chance. You failed. Every single time. They were both red-faced now. You can take that money and do whatever you want with it, I said. But don't call or text me. You're unbelievable, Malcolm said. You're a bitter old man. No, I said. I'm a clear-headed old man who finally stopped making excuses for his grown sons. I pointed toward the door. Now, get out of my sight. They stormed out, muttering under their breath, dragging their entitled wives behind them. When the room was quiet again, I called for Sarah. She walked in, looking unsure. I handed her an envelope, too. She opened it. Another check. $1 million. She gasped. Uncle Henry, I don't deserve this. Yes, you do, I said. You're the only family I've got. She cried. I hugged her. That was the first moment in a long time I felt real peace. The next step? I had a new will to write. After the hospital drama ended and the dust settled, I went home to my quiet New Mexico cabin. I sat on the porch for hours that evening, just watching the light fade from the hills, the wind cutting through the grass like a whisper. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done with emotions. I was ready to close the chapter. The next morning, I made 3 calls. To my attorney, to a local real estate agent, to a ranch manager. I was going back to what I knew. Land, soil, ranching, because as much as I tried to stay away from it, I didn't know how to breathe without the sound of wind over pasture or the smell of hay and cattle. That land raised me. It saved me. My sons turned their backs on it, but I wasn't going to let my legacy die with their apathy. 2 weeks later, I closed the deal on a 320-acre spread in the foothills just north of town. Fertile land, strong fences, a small home already on it. Nothing flashy, just workable. The woman who sold it to me smiled and said, "Most folks your age buy RVs, not ranches." I don't know how to drive those damn things, I told her, but I know how to run cows. I moved in that day. By the end of the week, I had a ranch manager, 3 new ranch hands, and a company truck. It felt like being 42 again, not 72. That night, I sat at my desk and pulled out a fresh notepad. At the top, I wrote one word. Will. I started listing my assets. The land, $10.4 million value. The remainder of the cash, $36 million in investment accounts. Personal items, investments, stocks, truck, etc. Then I listed who I wanted to give it to. I stared at the paper for a long time before writing any names. Not Evan, not Malcolm, not their wives. Just my grandkids, Evan's 2 boys and Malcolm's daughter. They were still young, still moldable, still innocent in all this mess. But I wasn't going to make it easy for them. I told my lawyer to draft the following clause. The ranch and all assets therein shall be inherited by my grandchildren, on the strict condition that they visit the property regularly, maintain it, and personally contribute to its care and operation. If any of them fail to do so by age 25, the entire estate shall default to Sarah Lynn Evans, my niece and caregiver. Simple, clear, no loopholes, no false promises. If they wanted to carry the Willis name, they had to carry the work too. A few days later, Sarah came by the ranch. She brought apple pie and a cooler full of groceries. "Did you buy all this land?" she asked, staring at the barn, the fields, the wide open space. "I did." "You're insane," she smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe I finally got back to where I belong." I walked her through the place, showed her the horse pens, the cattle feeders, the work shed I was setting up. She listened like she actually cared. Then I took her up the ridge, where I'd already started fencing off a small plot. "What's that for?" she asked. "My grave." She turned to me, blinking. "What?" "I want to be buried right here, facing the sunrise, where I can see the land every morning." She didn't say anything for a while. Then she quietly nodded. I'll make sure it happens, she said. And I'll make sure you're taken care of, I told her. I don't need anything from you, Uncle Henry. You don't, I agreed. But that's why you deserve it. 2 days later, the lawyer came by with a final version of the will. We signed everything, notarized it, and filed copies with the courthouse. Another copy went into my safe. Then we burned the old one. I think I finally got it right, I told him. You sure you want to give your grandkids a second chance after what their parents did? He asked. I'm not giving them a second chance, I said. I'm giving them a test, just like their fathers got. And if they fail, then the land goes to Sarah, and the legacy stays in the right hands. He nodded. You're a tough old man. No, I said, pouring him a drink. I just finally stopped being soft. That night, as I stood outside watching the cattle graze under the moonlight, I realized something. I had peace. Not because I had money, not because I won anything, but because I made sure my name wouldn't die with men who didn't respect it. The land would survive me. The values would survive me. And if they didn't, Sarah would. 3 months passed since I moved to the new ranch. I didn't hear a word from Evan or Malcolm. Not a call, not a text, nothing, which was just fine by me. I spent my days walking the land, feeding the horses, helping the hands check fences and cattle tags. At night, I'd sit by the fire pit, drink a little whiskey, and remind myself why I made the choices I made. And then, like clockwork, the past came knocking. Literally. One Thursday morning, I heard tires crunching on the long gravel driveway. I looked up from the porch and saw a black SUV rolling toward the ranch. Tinted windows, big and shiny, the kind you don't bring unless you want to make a statement. I already knew who it was. They stepped out like they were entering court. Evan, Malcolm, their wives, dressed up like it was Sunday morning. No one smiled. Dad, Evan called out, walking toward me with his hands raised. We just want to talk. I didn't move. What do you want? Malcolm stepped up beside him. We came to make things right. I raised an eyebrow. Now, Jessa piped up. We were hurt by what you did, Henry. It felt like you cut us out. I scoffed. I didn't cut you out. You acted like we were nothing to you, Courtney added. No, I said, standing up. I acted like I was tired of being treated like I was nothing to you. Malcolm's voice rose. That land was part of our family for generations. You had no right to sell it without telling us. I stepped down from the porch, slowly. I had every right. That land was left to me, alone. I worked it. I maintained it. While you both chased promotions, new houses, and social media clout. You're our father. Evan shouted. You were supposed to look out for us. I shook my head. And when I fell and told you I was injured, where were you? When I was hospitalized, where were you? When I said I wanted to talk about my failing health, you told me to book a damn phone call. They both stood silent now, faces tight. But the minute the news came out that the land sold for $50 million, suddenly I'm important again. Suddenly you want to sit down. Suddenly I'm worth visiting. Evan clenched his jaw. You're being unfair. No, I said. I'm being honest. Malcolm crossed his arms. You really gonna die on this hill, huh? Cut your own sons out like we're strangers. I didn't cut my sons out, I said slowly. My sons walked away. I just closed the gate behind you. Jessa stepped forward. You're a selfish old man. I nodded. I've been called worse. Evan pointed at the barn. So what? You gonna give all of this to that nurse niece of yours? The one who barely has your blood. She's got my loyalty. That's more than I can say for you. Courtney huffed. You're throwing your whole family away. No, I said. I'm protecting what's left of it. I turned and started walking back inside. Dad, wait, Malcolm called. You can't just toss us a measly $1 million and walk away like that's justice. I stopped on the top step of the porch and looked over my shoulder. You're lucky you got anything at all. You didn't earn it. You never lifted a finger for it. People are going to talk, Evan muttered. You think you won't look bad when everyone finds out? I smiled. Let them talk. I opened the door and shut it behind me. They stood there for a while, probably hoping I'd come back out. I didn't. Eventually, the SUV rumbled down the gravel again, and I watched from the window as they disappeared around the bend. When it was quiet again, I called Sarah. "They came," I said. She sighed. "And exactly what I expected. You okay?" "Better than ever." That evening, I rode one of my horses up the ridge and sat where my grave would someday be. I watched the sun drop behind the hills, golden light spilling across the land. I didn't need anyone's approval. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. I had said what needed to be said, and they finally knew where they stood.